Director, Regional District Board meeting for Wednesday, June 30th. Confirmation of quorum, I believe we have.
Yes.
I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have adoption of the public agenda, please?
Move adoption.
Second, Davis.
Director Wally, Director Davis, thank you. Any additions? Hearing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Petition delegations, Salmon Farmers at Discovery Islands. Today we have Dave Kowalski, Little River Enhancement Society, and Roy Creek Salmonite. Are you with us, Dave?
Tom, do you know if Edith, do you know if Dave's on here?
It would appear that he is not currently with us, so I can't explain why, but he was certainly invited.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll move on then.
Okay, we'll move on then.
Can you, does everybody have me? Because I had
Yep.
trouble connecting again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we can hear you.
We got you, Brenda.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay,
Could I
we'll
ask a
move on.
question? Could I ask a question, Brad?
On the petition
if-
delegation.
If on the petition and delegation, if the petitioner, whatever delegation shows up later, do we then, fit them in somewhere, or are they just out of luck?
I would say we could fit them in, yes.
Would that
Okay,
not
thanks.
would that not be a choice of the board?
I'll go to the CEO for that, for Tom.
Yeah, I
Typically,
mean, if,
that-
oops, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, yes. Typically, the board would have to decide if they wish to have that or not.
Okay. Okay,
Good,
thank you. Thank you, Director Cornfield. So if Dave comes back on, at that time, we'll discuss the matter.
I'll move that the minutes of the regular meeting of the regional board held on June 16th, 2021 be adopted.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Director Baker seconds it. Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, carried. Item F, any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
with regard to the motion SRD, let's see, 55421, 55421 for ministerial meetings. I had put forward that we should talk to the Minister of Health about pathology services for the North Island, but I reconsidered and thought that we should possibly just forget about that and let the Strathcona Regional Hospital District do that kind of lobbying. So I would just, I know it's accurate in the minutes, but I would just like the board to note that I think we should not represent the hospital board at a pathology meeting with the minister.
Okay, thank you.
I can provide an update later in the agenda if you'd like regarding pathology.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, if there's no other business arising from the minutes, we'll move on to public considerations. Item G, remedial action requirement 3749 Island Highway. Motion received.
Move receipt of report.
Second.
Seconder. Good, Director Wally and the CEO.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there really is no report attached. This was an opportunity for the owner of the property for which the board had passed a resolution requiring remedial actions be taken, an opportunity for him to appear before the board with or without his legal counsel and state his case. I don't know if he's been able to join us. He did indicate that he would be, but so far we have not seen him. So perhaps unless Edie has some update on that, I'm not sure he's going to be with us today.
Okay, thank you. Any update, Edie?
I don't see that he's on the participant list, so I'm assuming he has not been able to join the meeting, but he was sent a meeting invite.
Okay, thank you. Director Mola.
Yeah, just curious what the next steps are then.
I
Neil?
think, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Aniko will just refresh our memory on the process, but what this was, we were enabling the, and the board enabled the homeowner to come and state his case of why we should not pursue remedial action. The board had made a resolution to pursue that, and then we had gave this the homeowner the opportunity to state why he feels remediation action was unnecessary. So the fact that the homeowner has not participated with us today, we will continue on our current path, and maybe Aniko can refresh us as to what that is.
Okay, thank you. Nicole?
Thank you, through the chair to the board. We're in a position right now where we've issued remedial action to the property owner. This remedial action requires the property owner to cease all activity occurring within the damaged structure. The structure was damaged quite significantly by fire. We have issued a do not occupy and a stop work notice on the structure, and awaiting the property owner to continue with his requirements to address the condition of the structure. He is required to provide a hazardous materials remediation report as part of his continued requirements for demolition permit or building permit, whichever one of those may be the case. If he is wanting to proceed with the potential for a building permit, he will be required to obtain a professional engineer to prove that the building would be habitable and could be reconstructed. If that's not the case, then he will have to proceed with a demolition permit and the hazardous materials report, which will require him to dispose of the hazardous materials in an appropriate manner, which unfortunately is not occurring at this time. Since we've issued the remedial action, the property owner has continued to be in contravention of our bylaws and the BC Building Code. He is entering the structure along with a number of other individuals and removing hazardous materials and disposing of those hazardous materials in large waste bins on the property, which are then being disposed of in an inappropriate manner. Staff would like to proceed with the remedial action requirements as authorized by the board. Thank you.
So my question was more like, when we agreed to this extension, was there not a motion then was deferred? Will you require anything further from the board to proceed with the remedial action? Or will that have to then come back to our next board meeting and it just be another 2-week delay? So with the non-show of the property owner, can something happen within the next 2 weeks?
Mr. Chairman, I can respond to that if you like.
Go ahead.
So just to refresh the memory, a month ago, the board or thereabouts, the board passed a resolution to require that remedial actions be undertaken on this property. That was provided to the owner by registered mail. At the last moment, prior to last board meeting, he requested an extension so he could speak to the board. The board considered that was appropriate, and so it was scheduled for today. And the fact that that there's been nothing received from him for the board to consider in terms of a change of heart or whatever means that the original decision of the board still stands.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Director Abram?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to support staff in moving forward with the motion the board has already passed. This was the chance for this person to
Yep.
have an extension to bring legal counsel, so I'm not sure, why we need to wait any longer. Let's just get on with it. Let staff do their job.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I would just like to say that it doesn't appear that he intends not to occupy the building, since there's a gigantic silver tarp recently put over the entire roof. And I know the roof is caved in on one side underneath that tarp. So it's really unfortunate that, there's somebody trying to remediate, but he didn't have any house insurance. So I don't see how he's going to be able to effectively remediate, up to our bylaw standards. But I was going to suggest that perhaps since he has a legal representative supposed to be coming, maybe they're trying to, trying to connect with us, that we defer this item to the addendum, just to the end, and just see if they do, to give them an opportunity to represent themselves before we just let the staff go ahead with the issue.
I would say no to that. His lawyer and himself been well aware of the meetings here. They're not here now, so we'll continue on.
Okay.
Anything further? Seeing none. CO, do we need a motion just to move on, or?
I
No, Mr. Chair, I think the board has made a decision unless you're prepared to do something different. It still stands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so question on the report. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Thank you. No motion, nothing. Chair's report. Got a couple things here, directors. We held our second Connected Coast Board of Directors meeting here last week. Staff brought the new board members up to speed. It's our second meeting now, and we'll have another one, I think, coming up in about 2 weeks, if I recall right. Sat in with a meeting with Mr. Osborne and Mr. Ebby. COVID update, of course, the phase 3 coming in effect tomorrow. Start preparing for open meetings was discussed. Bill 192 will expire 90 days after the state emergency, which is canceled, which would be July 21st. Bill 10, 2021 hybrid model, new regulations for open meetings will be coming to the CAOs, and I think there's a report further on discussing that a little further. Mr. Ebby talked about more intakes on funding for CHF. They talked about nonprofit societies to partner with on projects for funding availability. Mr. Osborne did say that they will maintain these monthly meetings after September UBCM. There'll be nothing through December until UBCM, but they're really impressed with the amount of input, from district chairs, mayors, etc., throughout the province. So it's something they continue on afterwards. I sat in with the CEO the other day on the legislative reform discussion. Chair Tyler Brown from the 911 RD put it all together. Don Lidstone from Lidstone was the primary speaker. He talked on lots of stuff regarding regional districts, government policy, bylaw enforcement, business authority, flexibility services, First Nations joining regional districts, etc. It's a private bill 196, etc. Really, a synopsis will be coming to the board chairs very soon, and we will pass it on to everybody then. And that's all I got for chair's report. So I motion to receive my report as verbal.
My receipt. Second.
Second.
Thank you. I think it was well and sweet. Thank you. Okay, a lot of background noise there.
Jim, I think that's coming
Question.
from your area.
Question, go ahead, Chair Traber.
I could hardly hear your
Anyway.
report, Mr. Chair, with the background.
Chair
Mr.
Traber, we got a
Chairman,
question.
Mr. Chairman, I was advised by Edith that apparently the owner of the property on Island Highway has attempted to join the meeting.
Okay,
Just for information.
Is that what
Okay.
the background noise is? Anyway,
I believe so.
I just wondered on that, the meeting that you talked about on legislative reform, you said that was the chairs? I'm sorry, I missed part of some of your words.
Yes. Yes, the regional district
Did you-
chairs, yeah.
Okay, so regional district chairs talking about legislative reform for regional districts,
Correct.
at the provincial level or what, locally or?
Provincially.
Provincially.
Okay, so did this have anything to do with our, 20-year battle with them to try and get a charter for regional districts? Or was that
No.
word even mentioned? Okay,
That wasn't even mentioned in my
lastly-
background.
okay, and then lastly, if whatever comes forward to you in the way of a report back from Lidstone or whoever's doing it,
Yep.
that will be distributed to us.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, will we have an opportunity to respond to it in some
Yes.
way?
Mr. Chair, if I can interject, this is why we don't allow members of the public to participate. We just don't have control over the background noise. I think we should address Mr. Masters' attendance, whether we're gonna receive him or not. He seems to be the source of the background noise here.
Okay. So anything else on my chair's report for now then? I'll call questions. Anyone opposed?
Can we just
Harry?
come back to it? Because I had my hand up.
Okay. Okay, so now the question to the board, would you like to now entertain
Rob
the
Masters.
Rob Masters on his action?
I so move. Second.
Okay. I'll question on the motion. Anyone opposed? See none carried. So Mr. Masters, the floor is yours.
Okay, one second, I can put him on. We're having a really hard, this is his girlfriend. We're having a really hard time hearing you guys in that. It's really poor connection where we live.
Okay.
We
Well, we'll do our
can
best.
hear
I'm gonna
you.
put Rob on, but he's gonna try his best in that. Yeah, she's being way out here and that, I guess. Just really, really hard to hear any of you guys what you're saying. I'm gonna put him on, so hopefully he's able to hear you, okay?
Hello?
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 Yeah, we can
Hello?
hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, go ahead,
I'm in-
Mr. Masters.
Yeah, it took a while. We had to load down a bunch of apps to get to you guys.
That's good. Go ahead.
Okay, now, what's going on exactly? I never really heard anything you guys said.
We haven't said anything, Mr. Masters. This is your opportunity to address the board in terms of the remedial action that we have imposed on your property.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, we've got we have the I got the card from the guy come yesterday for the asbestos, and I'm waiting for the letter that he needs, and I'm going to the city to get the schematics of the house, and also everyone that we've tried to get a hold of to come and help us to do this that you asked us for, they're all so busy they can't, and they're only working half days because it's so hot, and they don't want to even put on a hazmat suit. So, but next week we've got who's the first guy coming in? It's the Rob Richards. He's the asbestos guy. Asbestos Bateman. He'll be giving us a clearance letter next week. And then the other guy is the engineer. And we've been waiting on him. He'll be in next week. We should have everything you guys need. Plus, we'll go to the city and get the blueprints of the house. We're going to apply for to rebuild, and because the structure's sound. The guy that was here yesterday took pictures, and he seems pretty positive that we can rebuild this. Or I don't. But otherwise, we've tried to. I got hurt bad, and I was in the hospital for most of the time that I was supposed to do this, and then I acquired a blood thing stuff for you. So then I was in the hospital for another 6 weeks straight. getting intravenous. So I couldn't do a lot of things that you guys asked me to when you wanted me to because I was in the hospital. And I was very seriously hurt when the fire happened. I shattered all the bones in my hand, shattered my wrist, fractured my elbow, dislocated my shoulder, fractured my neck, and I got a concussion. So I've been, I've got some ailments that I've been dealing with. And I'm doing my best to adhere to your guys's, what you guys want of me. So I'm sure that things are going to all fall into place once these guys start. Maybe the weather cools off and they start going at it more than a half a day at a time, and then I can apply for a permit to rebuild, or So otherwise, there's not. I've done everything they've asked me to up to this point, and I'm waiting on these other people. And it's out of my control. I've been trying to get this done for 2 weeks. So it's looking like next week we're going to have all things maybe are going to fall into place, I hope.
Okay. So do I go back to staff now, Steele?
Well, Mr. Chair, again, this was Mr. Masters' opportunity to address the remediating action that we move forward with. So if that's all Mr. Masters has for us to address, the board is happy to, I think, excuse him at this point and make a motion or not, or continue on with the current action.
Okay, I appreciate it, and I hope you stop the current action, because I know that it might have looked bad, but I've had a couple contractors look over it, and they said the only thing I got to replace is the roof, really, and then rebuild the interior. And so we can remodel it. We're just going to remodel the structure. The structure, basically, the foundation is sound because of the insulation that I had blown in the roof. The ceiling, the fire caught was between the ceiling and the roof, and when the ceiling let go, all the insulation landed on the floor, so nothing burned because it was a fire retarded insulation. So nothing burned on the floor. The floor is sound, and so are the walls. It's just a miracle. It's only surface stuff, and we got rid of all the surface stuff, and it's all sound. Like the house is sound.
Okay, so I think now, Mr. Chair, if directors want to ask questions of Mr. Masters, you're happy to take them.
Okay. Director Henderson, did you have a question, or was that from the previous?
Did you say Anderson
Director
or
Anderson?
Adams?
Either one. Go ahead, Director
Sorry,
Adams.
yes, I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you for addressing the board and sharing with us your updates. I'm just wondering, do you have any requests of the board at this time, or are you just offering an update? Is there any change of action that you're asking?
Yes, I would like to get a permit to rebuild, and I have the his name's Rob Watts. He's the structural engineer. Ralph Watts. I mean, he's a structural engineer, and he seems to be pretty confident that that'll go through.
Next week.
And he's coming back in next week to do his full thing. And then we're waiting for that engineer. We're waiting on him, and he said he will be in next week for sure. So then I'm pretty sure I'll get the go ahead from those guys to
Clearance letter will be
a clearance letter. Yeah.
That's for the water to be turned on.
And then it's kind of tough not having water. The way I have my water set up, when you guys turn it on from the road, it goes to a turn-off switch, which I turn on, and it goes to my outside hose. And then I have another turn-off switch where you turn on, and it goes to the inside of the house. So like there would be no cross-contamination of any kind.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm not.
Okay.
Just to complete that, Mr. Chair, I'm not an expert on these things at all, but I think that what you're speaking of, a reconstruction permit, that's something you would be dealing with staff, and you're speaking with the board who had issued a no further action request. So are you in any way asking that be amended, or are you able to work within? Thank you.
I would like that to be amended, please, and so that I could move forward. This has been very stressful on me, very, very stressful. For the simple fact is my insurance ran out on the Thursday. I went in on Friday to renew my insurance, and the lady there said that everything was, all my ducks were in a row, except she wanted a picture of the house, and she wasn't going to be back till Monday. And lo and behold, the only time I don't have insurance on my house, it caught on fire Sunday morning because of the it's an electrical thing, the fire department said.
Okay. Thank you. Director Adams.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Masters, and certainly my sympathies to the challenges that you've had and the injuries that you've had. And knowing that with the heat that we've had in the past week, and also the difficulty in just trying to find contractors or inspectors or anything else, you are indicating that you have a lot of appointments lined up for next week.
Yes.
Are you knowing that stuff happens that doesn't really go as planned? Would 2 weeks give you enough time to be able to get all the ducks in a row and be able to resolve these outstanding issues?
Well, you know, if you could give me one more month, I'm pretty sure I can have everything that you guys want, because like you said, everything takes time and it's a chain of command. And like we've been trying to get these two guys for the last 2.5 weeks, but finally it's starting to come through.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for your time.
CEO, you had a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So there's many of these issues that are clearly Mr. Masters is free. We're not blocking his opportunity to hire an engineer, get assessments done of the property, make a building permit application. But at this point, part of the recommendation that the board has endorsed is, and the crux of the matter is the do not occupy. Folks are living in the home.
Nobody lives in the home. Nobody lives in my home. You can't live in there. You can't live in there. I just put a tarp over the roof so it doesn't look so terrible from the highway.
Well, that has been the issue we've had with the homeowner.
Joe? Director Mogul, you had your hand up and you don't know?
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I may have missed some of this because I lost my internet connection for a bit, and so I didn't hear all of it. There was a lot more issues than simply the remediation and or rebuild. There were the issues of, I'm just reading from the original report, there was burning of construction waste on the property, camping on the property. If you don't mind me finish, please. So there was the burning of construction waste, noise, camping on the property, and the dumping of sewage. There were people who were living in the burn structure at that time, and there were also
that's not true.
No, Mr. Masters,
and there was also
please.
There was concern.
I'd like to address these.
Well, I'll finish and then you can address it, if you don't mind. Then there were also concerns about I think some kind of a trailer or motorhome on the property that didn't have the ability to deal with gray water and black water, and it was in contravention of various zoning bylaws. So there was a variety of issues. It wasn't just the remediation, it was not just the rebuilding. And there's been a lot of complaints from neighbors, and those complaints, I can ask staff, have they continued?
Yes, they have.
Can I address? Okay, now the ladies came in here and they walked around the place and they realized that the gray water was just from us washing our hands in the driveway, like from trying to stay clean. And I've addressed that. I have a porta potty that was put here on the property, so there'll be no issues with that. And also, no one ever lived in there on the property, like in the house. And when I was going through the stuff on the, when I wasn't near my property, someone broke into my house and stole a $1,500 generator that was in here, and stole $1,000 worth of my roofing and $1,000 worth of my tires. And that was very upsetting. And also the burning of stuff, that's wrong, because I already addressed that with the fire chief. They came here. What I was burning was okay. David Legas said that the fire was fine, except he wanted me to make it a little bit smaller, and then he left. And everything was cool. And then I went up the chain of command and I talked to another, the fire chief, that's the head of the fire chief, and he wrote me out a letter, which I gave to my lawyer, and my lawyer has it now. And I also got the thing from the city that I took to the fire department, and they gave me their thing, their write-up of whatever it was, and I gave that to my lawyer. I've addressed everything. I went and talked to my neighbors, and I do. This one neighbor, he's wanted my lot ever since he moved in, and he's been bugging me for 35 years. And the other lady, I don't know what's wrong with her, but her husband just passed away, so she's not a very happy person.
Okay, we're not getting into personal things here.
Yeah, I know it's personal, it's crazy, but accusations against me that are false really upset me.
Okay, Director Cornfield.
Sorry, had my mic and that off. It's more a question of through to staff. And Director Adams had asked about a 2-week delay. The proponent owner has said he could have everything done in a month. What is the impact from a staff perspective for any delays and what's already been approved by the board?
Oh yeah, we have also, sorry to interrupt, but I do have I've talked to a lot of police officers that come by here. And yes, I'm sorry.
Rob, it's the question not to you. It's
oh, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry.
Mr. Chair, other than continued complaints, of which we're getting a lot of, I will pass it over to Aniko.
Thank you, through the chair. Staff is continually receiving complaints from neighbors, multiple neighbors, not just the adjacent neighbors. We are getting a number of concerns from both Flinro, from the RCMP, from the fire department, asking that the regional district do whatever they can to try to mitigate the activities that are occurring on the property. There are construction activities taking place on the property starting at midnight, going through to 4 a.m. There's continual burning of material from inside the structure that we have information from a hazard assessment to be hazardous. There are still complaints with respect to the disposal of gray and black water on the property. The property owner has been tampering with the SRD's water connection infrastructure. We are continuing to get daily emails from the public with respect to these concerns. Flinro has issued tickets with respect to the burning that has occurred there. Police do continue to attend, given the noise that occurs during the evening. They have yet to issue an MCI, but the SRD has in fact issued tickets as well. We are concerned that
well, you're fading out.
They are entering the building without the appropriate hazardous gear on, and so we do have concerns with respect to that. There's supposed to be the hazardous assessment posted on the building, and anyone that's entering that abiding by those guidelines until an abatement can actually take place. That's not happening. We are awaiting information that would allow us to either issue a demolition permit or a building permit. That is what staff is seeking. That is what was contained in the remedial action. In addition to the ask that residential use of the recreational vehicle cease, because it's not permitted by bylaw. And in addition to that, removing materials from the property that are in contravention of our unsightly premise bylaw. So certainly there will be a number of concerns if we are not, if we give further delay to this issue.
Can I say something?
Okay.
Okay.
No, hang on,
I'm
No.
sorry.
hang on. Judge Cornfield, do you have anything else? You're muted, Charlie.
Sorry, just one question of him. Whereabouts do you currently reside?
Right now,
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a Winnebago that I have parked out by the highway.
Okay, is it on 3749 Island Highway property?
It's in front of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I just address some of these? Okay, for
No,
one,
no, I'm gonna,
there's been.
hang on.
Oh, sorry.
I've got more directors that want to speak.
Oh, I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Evans.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. And just through to staff, there's a list of, it sounds like non-compliance issues that you have just made. Could you please remind me, is the no occupancy something that is distinctly part of these non-compliance? Or what are the terms of the no occupancy? You mentioned something about there is a hazardous notice as well that has hazardous coverings or protective covering needs to be in place. Could you just give me a bit more information about that? And my second question, Chair, is related to the fact of, has there been an expectation that the compliance would happen prior to the permitting and all those other things? So is there some way that the non-compliance there's an expectation that that is immediately put in place? Just a reminder, please.
I'll go to Aniko.
Thank you through the chair. The do not occupy has been issued given we do not have any information that would support that the structure is habitable at this time, and also given the fact that we have received a hazardous assessment indicating that there are hazardous materials within that structure that need to be addressed prior to any sort of occupancy. So there's hazmat issues, and there are also structural issues that we need addressed before we could potentially lift that do not occupy, and then either issue the demolition permit or building permit, depending on what information we receive from an engineer. And at this time, the engineer that we have spoken to has not provided us the information that Mr. Masters has provided the board today. We have received no information that in fact that building is and could be rebuilt. So I think that would address your first question. And sorry, can you just remind me what your second question was, Director?
Well, yes, thank you. Thank you. You did answer my first question. I guess my second question is more related to how are we on a day-to-day basis enforcing the no occupancy? I heard you say earlier that there have been people that are going into the property that shouldn't be going in, some activity happening. To be in compliance, there's other issues that the speaker brought up earlier that sounds like he is trying to address, but there's issues right now that need to be addressed. And so my concern is, if he's not in compliance, how are we monitoring it? And yeah, I guess I'm just looking for some definitive way that we are monitoring the current situation while we're waiting for other things to happen.
Thank you, Chair. That's a really good question. We're using every means that we can to continually monitor the site and the activities that are occurring on site, along with coordination from a number of other agencies. As indicated previously, we have teamed up with Island Health, with FLNRO RD, with consultation with the fire department, the RCMP. We attend the site with the RCMP. We attend the site with Island Health, conservation. The WorkSafe BC, as I stated earlier, Flinro has issued tickets, and how do you address the issues that are there? We need to ensure that the do not occupy and the stop work is being upheld. That's the first and foremost. And then we need those professionals to go in there and provide us the information that we need in order to allow Mr. Masters to proceed again with either the demolition permit or the building permit. It would be fantastic if the activities that are other activities that are occurring on the property would cease as well. We have a bylaw in place. This is a super difficult situation. Believe me, I understand. But we have a bylaw in place that doesn't allow a lot of these associated activities to take place. And it is our role as staff to enforce. Should they don't want to enforce some of these items, then that would be direction to staff to pull back on some of those other issues. But certainly, you know, the occupation of that residential, you know, RV is causing much concern, and it is not permitted by bylaw. The unsightliness it needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. And if I can just close up, it's also risk and liability to the SRD that your comments are referencing as well. Thank you.
Okay, Director Lee and Director Abram. Director Lee, go ahead.
Yes, I think that remedial action is going to take some time, perhaps 6 months to a year, to get to where Mr. Masters wants to be. In the meantime, we have serious health and safety risks, to not only to Mr. Masters and his wife, but to the neighborhood. Risks of fires, risks of health matters relating to sewage discharge, late nights, going beyond the 11 p.m. curfew in our bylaws for noise, RCMP attending, tempers being frayed in the neighborhood. I received lots of complaints, and I believe that Mr. Masters needs to find a suitable location for that RV and perhaps live in it until he gets things underway with our staff if he intends to get a building permit or a demolition permit. I think that RV needs to go somewhere else where he can stay in peace and have running water. My heart goes out to you. I just can't imagine living without water through the last 4 days. It's really unfathomable that anybody could do that. It's unhealthy. It's dangerous. I don't think that is the place that you should stay until you get your house dealt with. So there's got to be a short-term solution to moving that RV off first,
Okay,
and then
that's
the
a different.
long-term.
Yeah, Director Lee, that's part of the discussion that staff have already dealing with. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go to Director Abram, and we're going to wrap it up. Director Abram.
Okay, thank you. I think mine's a fairly simple question. I know in our bylaw, we have a clause that basically talks about percentage of a building being destroyed by whatever, fire, earthquake, whatever. And once it reaches that percentage, it can no longer have a building permit issued. It has to be demolished. So do you have that? I'd ask through Anico, through Dave, through Anico, is there such a bylaw in place for Area D, and has that threshold been reached with this particular structure?
So Anico, is it kind of a mute question right now, or?
Thank you.
Really?
Pardon me?
Go ahead, Anico.
Thank you through the chair. We're unsure at this time how much of the structure has been damaged by fire, but I believe the clause that you're speaking of really relates more to when we have an issue with use and whether or not a grandfather type of use would be permitted, given the amount of the building that has been destroyed, typically more than 75% above the foundation. So in this case, I don't believe that is applicable. What we really need is a structural engineer to advise us that this can be rebuilt, and then have all of those materials submitted as part of a building permit. So all of the plans that would allow that building to be reconstructed, the engineering, the engineered schedules, and then that would allow us to proceed. But at this point, we don't have that information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's no further questions. We'll carry on. So I want to thank Mr. Masters for showing up today, expressing his concern. It's now up to the board to decide whether to move forward, or is there a different plan of attack? Director Mogul.
So thank you. As far as I'm aware, if we do nothing, the existing resolution from a couple months ago, I don't remember the date, carries on. I don't think we have to do anything unless someone wants to make a motion to postpone again. So I think if we do nothing, it stands. That's my understanding.
You're correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I'll call question on receipt. Sorry, go ahead, Theo.
Oh, no, we just have Mr. Masters on mute, so that's why.
Okay, well,
Mr. Chair, I don't believe you have any motion on the floor currently.
okay, thank you. So I need a motion to receive the report.
Move receipt of the report, Director Evans.
And
Second,
seconder?
Director Lee.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call.
What report are we receiving?
Just a
verbal report.
The
Just a verbal report.
presentation.
Thank you.
Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried.
Can we just see if we can disconnect Mr. Masters now from the meeting, or confirm that he has?
I believe he's leaving currently and has just disconnected.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. No motion. So sorry, we're on Chair's report. And Director Anderson, you had a question on my report.
She's muted.
Nobody have a question?
She's muted.
Director Anderson, you're muted.
I'm not sure if he's.
Apologies.
Okay.
Sorry, catching my thinking again. With regards to your chair's report, you were speaking about a meeting with the chairs around governance. I just don't know which governance amendments you're speaking to, and I would certainly be interested to know more detail, and just wondering if that's going to be provided somehow to the board, because we'd love to have knowledge and input opportunity.
Yeah, we'll have lots of knowledge and input opportunity down the road.
Can you speak just at the highest level of what is the nature of the governance changes that are being contemplated?
If I can, Mr. Chair, maybe I'll help you out here a little bit because I participated in that. So it was something that has happened, I would say, every so many years, is that you have regional and district local government that wants to have a discussion with other regional districts about a number of issues within the Local Government Act that most of them have been tackled before, but it's a scab they want to pick off again. And the meeting was really about issues within the Local Government Act, and was there an interest in creating a working group to identify those issues and collectively bringing them forward to the province. So I think on the call there was definite support through all the regional districts for that. They need to develop a terms of reference and appoint a number of members to that. So again, this was very high level just to see if there was interest from other regional districts in looking at making or petitioning the government on a number of different issues within the Local Government Act.
That's your question, Director Anderson?
It begins to, and I certainly look forward to more because I think there's lots of room for improvement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, on my verbal report. Anyone opposed? Carried. Consent calendar, nothing. So just a quick discussion, directors, as you can see, there's a big agenda. We used up almost an hour now, so all I would ask is let's try and keep it moving. Committee reports. Electoral Affairs Committee report. Motion received.
Move receipt.
Please, seconder.
Second.
Baker. Abram.
Second. Baker, thank you. Anything to add? See none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Strathcona Gardens Commission, motion to receive the minutes.
Move receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Adams and Evans, thank you. Any discussion? See none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Staff reports, development variance permit, DV 1B21 Homestead, motion received.
Move receipt.
Second.
Director Wally, Director Anderson, I think it was, and the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to add from staff.
Okay. On receipt, call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. On to B, the development variance permit application be referred to 2131 for comment to Electoral Area B, Cortez Island Advisory Planning Commission. And for the report be prepared.
Move B, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Anderson, Wally, thank you. Area directors only. Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you. Development permit application DP 1C21 to Young Park. Motion received.
Move receipt.
Director Wally. Director Lee.
Abram.
In the ad seal.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay, on receipt. Director Anderson on receipt or on B?
On B, thank you.
Okay, on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. On B, development permit application be deferred until public forum has taken place and report prepared for public forum. Abram, seconder.
Second.
Wally and Director Anderson. Thank you. I'd just like to note that we're getting into, I think, pretty difficult territory with having different standards in different rural areas for public forums. And I understand the real importance of this one to the community of Quadra. It's the gateway to the community at the entrance to the ferry there. But development permits are not something we generally go to public forum on. So just heads up to the board that we're in uncharted territory here. And I think I ended up supporting it at East, but I feel pretty uncomfortable with it.
Okay. Thank you. Director Abram.
Yes, thank you. It's not really uncharted territory. Development permits and development variance permits used to be handled in collaboration with staff and directors before coming to the board. That was changed a number of years ago, not staff. This is a major development. And as was mentioned, it is not just the entry to Quadra Island, it's the entry to the Discovery Islands, of which Director Anderson is a part of. And it's massive. So it definitely needs some public comment. And that was shown in his, if I may finish, that was shown in his last proposal, which was closer to the road, different type of building, but just as big. And the public comment was incredible. So I am not prepared to move forward without public discourse.
Okay, thank you. And just saying we're going to stage 3 right now, so I think you can have public forums now pretty well at any time. So, okay, any other discussion on it? Lecture airs only. Motion to for B. Anyone opposed? already been moved in second, I believe.
Sorry.
Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, carried. Item 3, development permit application DP 2D 21 Lamb. Motion to receive.
Move receipt.
Second.
Lee and Wally, CO, anything to add?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Okay, on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, the development permit DP 2D 21 Lamb be approved and the corporate officer be authorized to issue the permit.
Move B, Director Evans.
Second,
Seconder?
Davis. Second.
Second by Davis, thank you. Any discussion?
Mr.
I
Chair,
guess,
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that, I believe this must be moved by an electoral area director under your procedure bylaw.
Okay, it's got all the
Yes.
directors here. Okay,
okay, this is within the electoral area D, so I'll move it.
Second.
thank you, Lee and
And
Wally, thank you.
I just have one little question through the chair to our planning staff, to Aniko. This proposal is to build a gym and master bedroom within 15 meters of the high water mark of the ocean on Shoreline Drive. And I just want to know that it meets all the requirements of the floodplain bylaws, because the ocean is getting a little bit more volatile
Okay.
in the past few years, and I don't want to see people flooding. So is it safe from flooding at 15 meters?
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Lee. Yes, the proposed addition meets all of our existing floodplain requirements, including elevation and setback from the flood.
Thank you. Okay,
Yep.
so I've moved it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If
Second.
not, I'll call questions. Anyone
Yeah.
opposed? Director Abram, you're,
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to put my hand up, but a silly bar comes across the top. It's not directly related to opposing this. I'm not opposed to it. Under current guidelines, as Aniko said, but I do believe that this board needs to seriously consider looking at our floodplain bylaw with all of the things
okay,
that are going on globally. So, that's for a later discussion, but
Okay.
I don't want it to get lost.
okay, thank you. Okay, on B, call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 4, OCP rezoning CP 1D 21, RZ 1D 21, Oyster Bay Lands. Motion received.
Move receipt.
Second.
Lee and Wally, anything to add, CO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Two, on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried.
Mr.
Item B.
Chairman, if I may just jump in, sorry to interrupt. On B, I believe for some reason it's misprinted on the agenda. B is for electoral area directors only to vote on.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I move B.
Second.
Good. Director Lee, Director Wally, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 5, director input, development permit and variance permit application. Motion received.
Move receipt.
So moved.
Second.
Wally and Evans, the CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to add.
Thank you. On receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, the appropriate wording to allow for director input with staff regarding development permit and development variance permit application be prepared for further discussion. Wally and Abram, thank you. And question, Director Anderson?
A comment on this one. This is the kind of thing that my rural colleagues asked me to just, go with and give me a hard time for speaking at the board, but I can't not here. I have been very uncomfortable for my whole term in office with the level of politicization that development permits undergo. My consistent understanding from staff over the years has been that there's a very clear outline for development permit requirements, and if an application meets those, it's really questionable why we would decline them. And in the past, and certainly in other governments, this is actually just something that gets deferred to staff. And I've been very uncomfortable with the politicization that we've had in that all the development permits come to the board, and when we consider denying them or going to public meetings or requiring various things, we consistently get told by staff that this is that we're on really thin ice. And so I have mostly shut up about that. But now when it's being suggested that we change our actual bylaws to require director input, I would be delighted to have director input on just about anything else. When it comes to anything that happens in electoral areas, I think there's been a real shift with the current administration away from collaborative efforts. But on this one, I don't think this is an appropriate place to further politicize. So I would actually request of the board that we don't move in this direction at this time.
Okay. Any further discussion, Director Abram?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for those wonderful comments, Director Anderson. The point of this was not to politicize, but not to direct staff in any way, but give them the benefit of local knowledge regarding certain changes that are being applied for. It's supposed to read that it should be collaborative with staff, and I do believe that that's what we are trying to do, is be collaborative. As you just saw in the permit prior to this about the park application, that's bigger than most rezonings are ever coming to us. So it's definitely something that the public should have an input to the staff, just for them to understand the feel of the community. They can still follow their rules, do their stuff, make their recommendations, and then we can accept them or not accept them. I'm just saying that it's a good idea for staff to have as much information as possible, and I don't think they would disagree with that.
Okay, thank you. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just feel it's necessary to address again one of Director Anderson's editorial comments, where she says there's a shift under current administration in regards to director collaboration. Myself and the staff here, we follow good planning practices, board procedures, and legal advice. There's no shift in administration. Those are board accepted policies, board accepted legal advice, and staff's planning experience. So they're nothing to do with the current administration.
Thank you. On B, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed?
Mr. Chair, I had my hand up.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry to delay it. Area D already has procedures in place that work quite well pre-pandemic, where our development variance permits and environmentally sensitive permits go to the advisory commission, and the staff are there, the director's there, and the advisory commission and the applicants are there. So everyone gets to thoroughly examine the application before it comes to the electoral areas and then to the board. And that's been working very well for me for 29 years. So we have a procedure already in place in Area D. So if you're changing procedure, it would probably only really apply to B and C, who don't have this process. And I would also like to point out to Director Anderson that she did just refer the Olmsted application out to her APC, and that is possibly the same thing that the other directors want to do. So, you know, you can't have it both ways. If you're going to take a hard stand against other electoral directors for wanting to change the process, you should follow the process that you want.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you. Any other first-time speakers? Director Abram, do you have something else?
Yeah, just that we don't have an APC. I used to, don't anymore. We don't have anybody to look at these DPs or DVPs except the director. And if the director doesn't even know about them until they come to the board table or the committee table, certainly the public has no way of knowing about them. And I think that it's democratic and transparent for us to go to public input to inform staff. That's all. All I'm asking is that we inform staff what the public sentiment is around these issues. And I think that's all that Director Anderson is asking for in hers by referring it to her APC, because she knew she couldn't just do it on her own. So it had to go to an APC.
Okay, thank you. Director Anderson to wrap it up.
Yeah, just for clarity, development permits and variance permits are very different beasts. Variants are indeed a political decision to vary policy, whereas development permits are something where we have clear guidelines for. What I've referred as a variance permit, and it's the development permits that I have issue with. If this resolution was just variance permits, it would receive my support. Thank you.
Yep. On item B, is anyone opposed?
Opposed.
Director Anderson's opposed. Hearing no more, carried. Item 6, Quatsi Cove Water System Feasibility Study. Motion to receive the report.
Motion to receive, Abram.
Second.
Seconder.
Second.
Second Wally, CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to add from staff.
Okay, on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, the regional district investigate possible sources of grant funding to assist with the analysis of potential water sources.
Move B.
Moving right along, Abram, so moved.
Moved by Baker and Abram, second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 7, Backcountry Horseman of BC Salmon Brewster Trail Funding. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Wally,
Second.
second by C to CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to add.
Okay, on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed?
I've got my hand up.
On receipt,
Yep.
go ahead.
So the work that's being proposed, and maybe this is through to Director Wally, the work that's being proposed, all approved by the ministry?
If I may respond, Mr. Chair, the answer is yes.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Anything else on receipt? I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, the agreement be prepared for consideration for operations contribution up to 60. Director Wally, Seconder.
Abram.
second by Director Abram. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 8, financial relief for alternatives for Airdrie Water Service users. Motion receive.
My receipt.
Second.
Director Lee and Wally to CO.
Nothing from staff, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On receipt, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried.
Move the
Item B.
recommendation. Move B.
Second.
Director Lee, Director Wally, second. Any discussion? See none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 9, legislative changes, meeting attendance and corporate matters. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt. Move receipt. Evans.
Evans and Abram to CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom will speak to this for us.
Yep. Yates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this report is an offshoot of a report the board dealt with, I believe, last meeting, providing more information as to what's coming down in the near future regarding reopening to the public for board meetings, and also the ability for the board to continue to meet remotely, which will require the board spend some time looking at its procedure bylaw and thinking about alternatives and what is acceptable and what is not, given the province's mandate that these meetings will need to be publicly available, transparent, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really to introduce the board to a couple of concepts and suggest some further actions moving forward.
Yep. On receipt, you have a question, Director Abram.
No, I'll wait till we get to the
Yep.
next.
Yep.
to get
On
Form
receipt,
MD.
on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B is report to examine alternate approaches for continued electronic participation by directors beyond the transition period established in Bill 10 be prepared for the board's consideration. Abram moves, seconder.
Second,
Second, Director Lee. And you have a question on B, Director Abram?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, having read all of the material, I want to make sure that what we are doing is what I spoke with the CAO about, and that was that we're basically examining alternative ways of dealing with our procedure bylaw if it needs changes to allow us to continue doing things that we're doing, like electronic participation, et cetera, and that we're not trying to force us into going back to the old normal, which is not the new normal, and that are still in a situation where nothing is positive that we are clear in this stage. And I think that personally, it's premature to move forward at this point.
Okay.
There are still too many people unvaccinated, and I do not want to see us contributing to a situation where we make that curve go up again rather than down. So I'm just hoping that, we keep it on positive on our side of the equation, that directors will be cautious, careful, safe, and move from there.
Yep, CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, what we're trying to do here is current provincial authority allows us to do what we're doing today, is visit, meet remotely with limited or no attendance by the public. We're doing our best to be transparent in that we are publishing minutes. The next day we have audio visual of those. We're giving the public the ability to be as transparent as we can to them. So that authority, the province is basically saying, is going to end come 90 days. And what they're saying to us is, if you want to continue, we've created legislation that allows you to continue through this model that you've got, a hybrid model of it. But what you need to do is amend your own procedure bylaws that allow you to continually virtually meeting within the authority of the bill. So that's what we're proposing, is that we bring back a report and we say, okay, let's amend our procedure bylaw that gives us greater flexibility for individual directors to meet remotely for whatever reasons, of which the board will determine that they like. So if the board says, because of weather conditions, health conditions, or a number of other things we can include in our procedures bylaw, that those directors can meet remotely. So we're just adding abilities for directors to meet remotely and not forcing them back in. Of course, those that want to come back in will have the ability to, but they're telling us be prepared. This is coming to an end come October, so you need to create something yourself that allows it to continue.
Yep, Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, David. You disappeared from the voice. I had nothing after you said that. Started to say something about with the changes in legislation, and then something about 90 days, and then that was it. So.
Oh, okay, I'll just quickly repeat myself, is that the current legislation that we're under the emergency health provisions is allowing us to meet remotely. So when that state of emergency ends, July 21st, there's a 90-day window of transition, if you will. So that 90 days brings us to sometime in October. And if you don't amend your procedures bylaw that allows you to do a hybrid, if you will, then you're back to full attendance. So they're saying we've created legislation that allows you to do that hybrid, you need to amend your procedure bylaws, and then beyond October, you'll be able to continue remotely under the conditions you put on yourself.
Okay, and just one further on to that is the changes coming at midnight tonight, which allows larger indoor gatherings, no longer a 6-person limit in pubs and restaurants, etc. Does that affect our attendance? Or is it just strictly we've got 90 days to roll over to the new one or to the way it was?
No, the 90 days will start come, again, I believe July 21st. What the new regulations allow is that we can have the public and directors come into the building. So we've got a lot of new technology here, and so in our next motion, we're trying to introduce it, say a handful come back in. Now, we've got 3 written there. If more directors want to come in, we're certainly allowed to do that. We can accommodate under the new orders all the directors if they wish to come in. They don't have to. We also have new technology that we're hoping to use this as a training exercise. The Connected Coast Board has met a couple times using the technology on a hybrid model. We've had people here, we've had remotely. I think it's worked fantastic. And there's a few tricks that the chair is going to have to learn to operate through it. So we can technically have on the 14th the whole board return if they want. I don't think there's much chance that's going to happen, and nor does it have to happen. We can have public attend on the 14th as well. This just gives us the ability to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other first-time speakers on B? Director Abram.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to remind the directors, one of the things that the provincial government found out during COVID with remote working from home, et cetera, and that we also found out as an SRD that attending remotely saved the SRD an incredible amount of money in travel reimbursement for all the outlying areas, Cortez, Quadratassus, Ceballos, Cayuga, Cold River, Sayward, et cetera. That should be a consideration. It's a lot of money, and it's money that would stay in wherever general administration or EA administration or wherever it comes out of. It would not need to come out of. If we work remotely, it works great. If public want to attend, media want to attend, they're right in town anyway. So there you go.
Okay. Gil, on item B, call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item C, chair and up to 3 directors be permitted to attend the July 14th meeting.
So moved.
Director Abram, second.
Second.
Director Cornfield, any discussion?
Yep.
Director Mulgrove?
Just want to volunteer. Thank you.
Gil. Director Davis?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Isn't this potential motion a bit redundant given the information we've been given?
I'm not sure it's redundant. It's more, it may be, but it's more an opportunity again because of our technology and our surroundings and our training. We didn't think there was any way we were going to get 14 directors to show up there. And if more than 3 want to go, absolutely. Just the message here is that we can accept people coming in, and it might be a way to ease ourselves into it and accommodate the training. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I could jump in as well, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just a reminder to the board on July 14th, there will be really only the period between 12:30 and 3 o'clock when the Strathcona Gardens meet. So there is a compressed timeline, and given the technology that is brand new and the fact that there is some training that will be needed for directors and for the chair in terms of how to operate that in a hybrid environment, and as well as staff, that we had suggested that attendance by board directors be limited. What that exact number is, I can't say, but if all 14 directors showed up, I think that meeting is going to go on a lot longer than 2.5 hours. That would be, I guess. So.
Thanks, Tom. Director Cornfield.
Yeah, I guess, well, my point is that right now the motion says 3 directors.
Up to 3.
Hey?
Up to
Yeah,
3
it says
directors.
Up to 3. Yeah, we just heard from staff, well, if they could handle more, but not sure that they could handle the entire board. So what's the number?
Well, like Tom said, it's a tough one. Happy to amend it, certainly. I mean, if there was, 6 or 7 that wanted to attend, I'm sure we could. I think we were just trying to be conservative, just because we were a little anxious about, running the meetings, because when we developed the technology, it was certainly, and we bought it and installed it, it was certainly not to do a hybrid. It was to live podcast and have in attendance meetings. Now it has worked, I think, really well at the Connected Coast meetings. And so it's more about, training and getting accustomed to it in a hybrid method. So if you want to amend it from 3 to 6, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, but 6 would be sort of the max you would be comfortable with?
Yeah, I think Tom and Edie are probably anxious, but I'll speak for them and say 6.
Okay, then I would move an amendment to the motion to change the wording that the chair and up to 6 other directors.
Second.
Okay. Go.
And if I could speak to my amendment, and that is strictly that if we try and train the board over 3 directors at a time, that's 4 meetings.
Yeah.
Before we got everybody done. So let's try and get it done as quick as possible. And I'm looking forward to attending along with other directors for a change. And okay.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Director Lee.
Yes, I've had both my vaccines, so I'm safe to come, and I'd like to come in, especially if you have air conditioning.
We do.
So I'd like to be there in July for the next meeting. I don't like these virtual meetings. I put up with them for the past 1.5 years, but I can't wait to see everybody again.
Okay, thank you. So on C, be amended to 6. Call questions. Anyone opposed?
Have my hand up,
Carried.
Mr. Chair.
I think you had a couple of questions, so Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Director Abraham.
Yeah, just real quick. If you read the information that came to us from Bonnie Henry and from the Premier, it was stated a number of times that we must all follow what we are comfortable with. And if we're not comfortable with coming into the board, then that's what we should be following. So I think we need to, keep that in mind. Charlie wants to move it from 3 to 6, that's fine. But if only 8 in the end want to come in, well, then that's all you get.
That's right. Director Abraham, I think you've said before that you have very little intention of attending a meeting at this time. So we understand that.
Yeah,
Director
and
Lee.
that's mainly medical
No,
reasons.
sorry, excuse me.
Not
Yeah.
preference.
Yeah, thank you. Director Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment that I'm sure you're all aware of. When vaccines, for example, are 80% effective, that means they're 20% ineffective. So just because you're vaccinated doesn't necessarily mean that you're protected.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll call question on C. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none carried. Item D, to further resource and ability to conduct public hearings.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I
Yes.
think you called the question on the amendment motion.
Yes.
So I think the motion now on the floor is
The main one.
C with 6 instead of 3, I think.
Sorry, correct. Thank you. So question on 6, not 3. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none carried. Thanks, Tom. Item D, further resource and ability to conduct public hearings using different rules, and further report be prepared on the findings.
Move
Motion
D.
to receive. Director Lee,
Second.
seconder.
Second.
Director Adams. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call carried. Item 10, Supreme Court petition Anderson litigation update. Motion to receive the report.
Mr. Chair, I need to recuse myself for conflict of interest. I will leave the room and ask that somebody text me when you're done.
Joe.
Move receipt.
Joe, seconder.
Second.
Second, Evans.
Joe, Director Adams, thank you, and the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity here, this court decision was an open session that Director Anderson participated in. This meeting is open session. There's no need to declare conflict, but that's of course always up to the director. So on the Supreme Court litigation, it was a verbal ruling, obviously because of COVID conference call. To the best of our knowledge, the only folks on that call were the lawyers, myself, Tom, our chair, and Director Anderson. So what I've tried to do is be a little bit cautious in terms of there is no written judgment at this point. It was verbal. We weren't allowed to record it. I certainly made notes and just wanted to communicate those back to the board as best I could on the three claims from Director Anderson. One that we must indemnify her, which the judge did not agree with, that we were not within our authority to censure Director Anderson. Again, judge did not agree with that, and that we withheld documents from Director Anderson, which the judge as well didn't support her claims on those. One thing that I think was really important for the board to understand, I certainly wanted to communicate to them because this was a long process. It was a learning process. I think we did a fantastic job of following process. And without exaggeration, I think the judge must have used the term fair and reasonable upon the board's actions 25 to 50 times. He continued to repeat that the board was fair and reasonable in their process. So I think that's something that the board should be proud of in the exercise of their decision making. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Director Abram.
Yes, thank you, Dave. You prefaced Director Anderson did not need to recuse herself because of the fact that this is not in camera. It's in the open session. Should she not be told that she does not have to recuse herself and she can be in the room? Because it's my understanding that since we're doing it in the open, this is public information now, after the close of this meeting. And if it's public information, this will, of course, be in the media, on the different internet chat boards, et cetera, et cetera. So should Director Anderson not be included in this conversation?
Well, we've been through this, Mr. Chair, a number of times. Is it the directors? It's my opinion, obviously, that she's not in conflict, but that's ultimately up to the director to decide. She's certainly able. This is an open report. The judgment was open to the media. If they participated, we don't know if there was media that did participate. The judgment is public. So again, it's not my role to argue with the director that wants to declare conflict. I'm not certain why she did. She left upon conflict. She didn't declare what the conflict was. So I don't know why.
Okay. Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Chair. No. Did the judge give any reason why it was just a verbal one? Decision?
Not really, other than COVID. So the circumstances of meeting. So he's a traveling judge. So one reason is I assume he wasn't in Campbell River. The lawyers are from Vancouver. So I think there was some logistics issue involved there. I know verbal decisions are not uncommon. And he said that a transcription of the decision usually is about 2 to 3 weeks. And it's my intention once we get that to bring those reasons of judgment to the board for their information. I think they were very interesting. He was very detailed of it. And I think it is good, is a great educational tool for all directors moving forward in terms of issues that we dealt with. So I think the reasons will be quite valuable to everybody.
Okay, so we just need to be patient for the sort of finals to come out. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I could elaborate a little bit and very quickly that the judge did say that there were a number of citations that were included within his reasons for judgment. He wanted to check them thoroughly to make sure they were accurate. It is typical for the actual written reasons to take a bit of time, especially for a complex and lengthy judgment that was delivered. So I don't think there's anything necessarily unusual here. It's just it does take a bit of time for everything to be checked thoroughly before it is released in written form, but it will be coming shortly.
Great, thank you, Mr. Yates. Got Director Lee, then Director Kerr. Director Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report says that Justice Gall will be considering the matter of costs before the end of July, and I guess that's probably when we'll get a final written report back on his final judgment. Will the costs include the costs to the regional district for all the FOIs and whatnot that were sent to us by Director Anderson? Or are those our internal costs?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chair, just to be cautious, if we're going to have a discussion about cost, we should do that in camera.
Okay.
Yep, Director Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. And just to let you know that this article is already published in the Campbell River Mirror online. So it's there already.
There you go. Director Wally.
I took my hand down, Mr. Chair. Director Lee.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Director Cornfield, did you have another question? Unmute, Charlie.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure, given Director Kerr's comments too, that it's already printed in the newspaper. This isn't premature, is it? Like, what happens if he's reviewing his things and he finds something that he doesn't necessarily agree with?
So if I can, Mr. Chair, just address this. Interesting, when we were on the call, we were not allowed to record it. If there was media on the call, they didn't have to declare their name. So we're uncertain if there was media on the call. But one thing interesting he said was that he is going to give a verbal reasons. Those would be transcribed. But if there were any errors in the transcription of what he said, it would have no effect on his decision.
Okay, so we're not premature, and I would assume that the Mirror got this from the agenda that was published, which is an open public agenda. They would have access to your report as well.
I'm assuming that as well, because I, to my knowledge, there was no media on the call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any further questions. I just want to quickly say, to staff, Dave and Tom and all the staff, thank you very much. It's been a long process. Directors, the same, being patient. Yeah, like I say, it's been a long process, and I just want to say thanks to all of you for dealing with such a very important issue. Thank you. So on receipt, call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. And Edie, can you message Director Anderson?
I have messaged her.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to item 11. Request for final assistance to Auxiliary B. Motion to receive the report from the CAO.
Move receipt.
Second.
Mr. Lee and Adams. Anything to add, CAO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Two. Call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried. Do we approve item B? The board approve the grants and aid to be paid from electoral area B grant in the budget as follows.
Chair, if I
Move B,
could
Mr.
move
Chair.
B through
Eight.
B1 to
Oh.
8.
second.
Yep. Thank you. Adams and Wally, thank you. Any discussion? Director Anderson?
Thank you. For clarity, that's moving everything before us, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah, just super briefly to advise the board, as I advised East, in the last couple of years, there's been a process for grant and aid recommendation to the board that has involved the social profit community at large and has been much more transparent. There's now an adjudication process developed by the social profit community that's attached here, and a letter of support from a bunch of them, as we did last year. So we're just working towards a process that's much more transparent, open, democratized, and I've advised that all applicants that in order to be considered for next year, they will need to report on spending received this year. And I know that's been an issue of concern to the board. So trying to move in a direction that will allay board's concern. Thank you kindly.
Great. Thank you, Director Anderson. Anything further? I'll call question on B's. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 12, request final assistance from River Art Gallery. Motion to receive the report.
Abram,
Move
receipt.
receipt, Evans.
Move receipt.
Abrams, Evans, thank you. Anything to add, CEO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On receipt, I'll call question. Anything opposed? Seeing none carried. Item B, the board approved a grant.
Move,
That's Director Abram.
Move B.
Second by Wally. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 13, request for account development funding, Quadra Island report. Motion receive the report. Abram,
Second.
second by Wally. Any add, CO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Two, on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Call carried. Item B, move the board approve the economic
Move
development
B.
grant.
Second.
Abram and Wally. Any discussion? See none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Request final assistance, Area D. Motion to receive the report.
Mr. Chair, I have a conflict of interest on the $5,000 grant to the cadets, as my great nephew is part of that organization. So I can stay here until you do item 1, but no, I'll have to leave for item 2.
Okay, on receipt, anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, the board approved grants from the Area D grant grant in aid budget as follows. Item 1,
I'll move B1.
Second.
Adams and Wally. Any discussion? Seeing none carried. Item
Okay, I'm
2,
declaring the conflict. I'm leaving the room.
come back in 30 seconds,
Move.
please.
I'll move B2.
Second.
Second.
Evans and Adams. Question, Director Adams.
No, I had a question.
Oh, sorry, Director Cornfield.
Director Lee didn't say what her conflict was.
It was your great nephew. Is a
Okay.
cadet.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Didn't
good.
hear her, Jim.
Okay, question? Anyone opposed? Carried. Bylaw 385 rezoning application. Wilson, motion to receive the report.
Move receipt, Abram.
Second.
Seconder, Wally, the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, bylaw 385 be amended by deleting Schedule A in its entirety and substituting therefore a new Schedule A attached to the June 23rd, 2021 report from CEO.
Move B, Abram.
Second.
Abram, Wally, any discussion? All questions, anyone opposed? Carried. Move C, the bylaw 385 be given second reading.
Move C,
Second.
Abram,
Abram.
Wally, any discussion? Call question, anyone opposed? Carried. And a public hearing to consider bylaw 385 be scheduled at a date and time to be determined.
Move
D.
D with a couple added words at the end that say.
Well, you're amending,
be
you're amending it
determined
then.
at a- Well, it's a friendly amendment.
Okay, go ahead.
Friendly amendment just to say to be determined at a later date.
Well, it says a date, time, and determined.
Well,
I
okay,
think
leave it
that-
alone.
Leave it alone. Thank you.
As it is.
As it was, Abram
As
and
it
Wally,
is.
thank you. Call question, Elector is, anyone opposed? Carried. Bylaw 429, regional broadband last mile boring. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Second.
Wally, Adams, the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the directors are probably aware that we've had this bylaw on the agenda a number of times and had to pull it because we didn't receive approval from the inspector of municipalities. Pleased to announce that we have received approval on this, and we will be moving forward with our AAP process following the board's endorsement of this.
Excellent, thank you. On receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Move B.
Move B.
Wally,
Second,
Baker,
Baker.
second. Thank you. Any discussion? Call question. Carried. Item C, total number of electors within the area affected by bylaw 429.
Move C, Abram.
Abram,
Second.
second. Second by
Davis.
Baker or Davis. Any discussion? Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item D, with the deadline submission be elected for Monday, August the 30th.
Move D.
Wally, seconder.
Second, Abram.
Abram, any discussion? See none. Question? Anyone opposed? Carried. Item E, the bylaw 429 be returned for further consideration at the September 8th meeting.
Move E.
Wally, seconder.
Second,
Abram, second.
Second.
Any discussion? Question? Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 4, bylaw 432, 433, OCP rezoning. Most received the report.
Move receipt, Abram.
Second.
You. Any discussion on report?
I have a subsequent afterwards, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried. And Director Abram.
Yeah, okay, I'd like to make a subsequent motion to adopt what is in the report as option A, which is also in the report and also on your board. It's the part that's in the brown lettering in the report. That bylaws number 432, 433 be amended by replacing the word campground with the words recreational vehicle sites, and that the amended bylaws be brought forward to the next available board meeting for first and second readings and agency referral.
Second.
Yep. Any discussion? See none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 5, bylaw 438, Cortez Island zoning amendment, cannabis regulations. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Anderson and Evans, I think it was. And the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay, on receipt, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B is bylaw 438 be referred to the Electoral Area B Advisory Planning Commission for comment, and that further report be prepared following the review.
Move B.
Dr. Anderson. Seconder.
Second.
Dr. Wally. Any discussion? Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Correspondence, Friends of Strathcona Park.
Move receipt.
Second.
Wally. Lee, thank you. And the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
You. Any discussion? See
No,
none?
Mr. Chair, I do note that there is a request embedded in this. I didn't want to lead on this one, given that I'm the furthest away, but was anticipating somebody else might want to address their request for funding to match the CVRD's request.
You. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried.
Mr.
Item
Chair,
two.
I'd like to move that we provide a letter of support to the Friends of Strathcona Park for their funding applications, but that the grants and aid requests of 5,000 from the Strathcona Regional District be referred to the Electoral Area Committee.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Director Lee, second by Director Anderson, or Adams, sorry. And I'll have to make sure Edie's got that. And discussion, Director Adams?
I do have.
Thank you, and thank you, Director Lee, for the amendment. Just out of curiosity, though, when they're asking, when the letter of request is for matching money, is there a proportionate amount of work that is being planned for access from the Comox Valley RD versus the SRD? And instead of matching funding, if anything is to be considered, should it be proportionate on the work and access that's being planned? And I haven't seen that. Thank you. Just a comment. Don't need an answer.
Yep. Thank you. Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Chair. Now I'm unclear as to where the money would come that would go to support this application. In other words, they're asking for requesting funding. Where does the money come from?
Campbell
Grants
River.
and aid.
Comes
I was asking that there.
staff. Yates?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think the board has choice there. There are grant and aid funds in each electoral area. There's also the ability to provide a regional grant if that was something the board wanted to look into. So those are choices.
Okay,
I
so
don't
there's
see the amended application. There's so much detail. Okay. I know that the previous one focused strictly on the Comox Valley. I wondered how much they were kicking in. Do we know how much contributions been made on behalf of the CVRD?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Again, this is just correspondence. This is all we have. So we can bring back a report with some greater detail, but we don't know any more that's in that correspondence.
Okay, but you could look that up?
We could likely find it out, yeah.
Okay, I would appreciate knowing that before we vote on any kind of grant name.
So right now, you're talking on the motion for Director Lee. Director Abram.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to state to Director Cornfield's comment that I believe this has been being referred to the Electoral Area Services Committee. That's what the motion is. So
Correct.
really anything grant and aid wise would have to be a recommendation from them, either from each electoral area or that they recommend to the board that there be a regional grant and aid. So that discussion's yet to come.
Yeah, agreed.
Edie, can you put the motion up for directors, please? Brenda, Director Lee.
Sure. Do you want me to read my motion again? Oh, would you like me to read my motion? Yeah. That the SRD provides support to the Friends of Strathcona Park along and that the grant and aid request be forwarded to the Electoral Area Services Committee for consideration.
Okay, good enough, Director Mogul. Okay, thank you. Director Cornfield, do you have another question?
Well, I do have a comment. It says we're providing a letter of support for their application.
To the province, sorry. They're applying to the province for money too.
And to ICE-T.
Yeah, So they want a letter of support that they can shop around to get money from other places. So I think that's okay. We can give them a letter of support, but any grants and aid must be referred to the Electoral Area Services Committee.
Well, there's other funding sources.
I know, but we don't know if they've got those sources or not.
No, they,
Okay,
staff had replied that there was two sources. One is from the SRD board as a whole, and the other is from electoral areas. Correct? Is that not what staff had said?
That is correct. I believe the intent from Director Lee is, though, to have this referred to the EAs, and the EAs would make a recommendation that maybe they would fund it from grant and aid, or they would pass a recommendation that they think the board should fund it from their grant and aids. Am I correct, Director Lee?
Well, normally every year in the past few years, Friends of Strathcona Park has applied to Area D for grant and aid funding, and the maximum they've got from Area D is $3,000, and that has been for physical work within the park, building an information kiosk and grooming trails and doing things like that. This time they're asking for money from all kinds of organizations to hire students to conduct a user survey of the park this summer. And they didn't give a dollar amount for that. They just said the Comox Valley was going to fund 3 days of student, wages to work on this survey. And all I'm interested in is I'm willing to put forward 3,000 from Area D. If at the electoral areas, another electoral area wants to, or two want to chip in to make up to the 5,000, we could do that. I don't think they're guaranteed of funding from other outside sources, but I have no problem in funding them to the same level that we've always funded them in the past few years. So I'm in for $3,000.
I guess
we'll talk about
the only concern I had was that it's a letter of support is being provided before it has gone to EASC.
Well, I thought the letter of support was to the provincial government for funding.
Yeah, that's how I understood it, that we'd provide a letter of support to the province, and then for funding internally, that would be referred to EASC for discussion.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody's clear. Okay, so just correct me if I'm wrong. So right now, the motion on the floor is that the board provide a letter to support the application to the province, correct? Mr. Yates?
That is correct. There's
Okay.
two motions, if you will.
Okay, so this is the one motion here. Okay, so I'm gonna call question on the motion that you can see right now on your screen. Is anyone opposed? Seen none, carried. And the motion prior to that is the motion that it goes to E, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll call question on that motion. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, carried. Thank you. Second on correspondence, Coastal Restoration Society. Motion received.
Move receipt.
Wally, second by
Second, Lee.
Director Lee. Any discussion? See none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. No new business, no Demon.
Mr. Chairman, just so the board is aware, there was embedded in the second item of correspondence also a request for a letter of support, just so the board is aware of that.
I would move that a letter of support for the Clean Coast Clean Water Initiative be provided to Coastal Restoration Society's efforts to clean up the shoreline on the west coast of the island.
Second.
Second, Abram.
Joe? Director Cornfield, I got you first. Question, anyone opposed? Carried. No new business, no addendum, closed item, report from CEO be received.
So moved.
Second. Leah Davis, all questions, anyone opposed? Carried. And move B, closed meeting be held immediately following termination of the public to consider
Move.
matters deemed fall within parameters.
Move B, subject to 91C, JK, and O of the community charter.
Director Lee, second.
Second.
Director Cornfield, any discussion? Call questions, anyone opposed? Carried. Motion to terminate.
Okay.
Move termination.
Second.
Baldy,
Second, Evans.
Cornfield,
Do we have to sign out
Yep.
from here? Or do we just stay on until it's cleared?
yep.
Sign
yes,
out.
to sign out.
Okay.
See you in a minute.